as as expected, the Sharks lose tonight in what can only be described as an upsetting fashion, 3-2 in overtime. Anze Kopitar with the overtime winner tonight, and the Sharks can only be described as collapse in the third period, having a 2-0 lead going into that third period and completely getting outplayed and throttled. Oh boy, it was not a great night in Sharks land, that is for sure. However, to calm all of our nerves down and to give us a little bit of dose of Canadian robotry and maybe just a little bit of a cold shower, I have Ian Reed joining me. Oh, and you are at Ian Blogs Hockey.
I am.
Let's see if I can get that. There we go.
This makes me sad.
Ian, I mean, look, the whole game was pretty boring, to say the least. It was very much a Sharks Kings circa 2012 kind of game. Just very much of whoever controls the neutral zone controls the game. And the Sharks end up, doing a good job in that second period of getting shots on goal, getting nice rebound opportunities, and doing all the things that you were wanting them to do, but just completely let off the gas in the third period. And I mean, if you're a team right now that is looking up in the standings at where they're at, that effort in the third period is not okay. And I am at a loss for words. I mean, what was your take on the whole game, and in particular that third period?
You know what though? Like, you can say what you want about the third period, but for me, I thought this game really started the way it ended the way it started, because the Sharks really weren't that great for the first period. I mean, it took them 10 minutes to get a shot on goal.
Yeah, exactly. It took them 10 minutes to start to have a shot on goal. It also took them a little while to establish any kind of forecheck. And,
Yeah.
I mean, just overall a lifeless performance there in the first period.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, because you've got a team that obviously, look, there's a layover here, but like at the same time, like, you're coming out, you're playing a team. Like, I understand that the rivalry maybe isn't as intense as it used to be, but I guarantee you those guys sitting in the locker room right now, they are not, they're not going to be guys that are happy losing a game to this team.
Right. And I mean, it goes to show you where exactly the Sharks are insofar as their game right now, and, where the effort is and where it needed to be. Um, excuse me. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the Twitter page right now. We are also going to be putting this back up on YouTube later on this evening. Unfortunately, we're still having our live issues with the YouTube, but you can also find us on all the social media. We are going to be taking questions tonight exclusively from Twitter, so please use that at tealtownusa. Of course, you can follow us on the Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. When this does post up on YouTube, we will also take into account your comments, and we will try to address them tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Facebook, SoundCloud, and of course Reddit, all at tealtownusa. And of course, please use the website tealtownusa.com. Okay, going back into that first period. So, it was kind of it definitely looked like an opening period coming off of a long layoff. The team looked lifeless, to say the least. There wasn't very many shots on goal. I think, like Ian said, it took about 10 minutes before they even generated their first shot. Pretty much the entire lineup, forward 1 through 12 in that first period just did not show up in that first 10 minutes.
No.
And honestly, we have seen this way too many times for my liking. I'm sure for your liking. I'm sure for all of Sharks fandom right now. And I don't understand what it's going to take to get these guys to realize that they're running out of runway if they haven't run out of ready
They've
already.
run out of, like, I don't know how anyone could, like, honestly, and I understand, like, this is really negative, and I apologize for those that are still holding out hope, but how do you come away from this game and think playoffs at all? Like, how do you even have that in your head after this game? Like, every time, and I've said this a few times, every time this team seems to plug a hole, they find another leak. You know, how many times we say, well, if they could just get average goaltending. I feel like Dell has given them pretty average goaltending in most of his starts, and have they resulted in wins? No. Like, every time you think you just, okay, well, if they can figure out this, then this is going to work out. But every time they fix one thing, something else breaks. So Aaron Dell's been better than Jones and Net, which isn't fucking difficult at this point. Or in Periscope, I can swear my fucking head off. Great. No, but look at, I mean, not that that's been a difficult feat to be better than Martin Jones at this point, but Aaron Dell has, to his credit, given the Sharks good goaltending. And it's unfortunate that, like, that third period, you can hang, I can understand how some people might want to hang that overtime goal on Dell for being a little over aggressive there, but Hurdle completely backs off of the play and just gives the Kings the frick in front of the net. If I'm the goalie, I'm going to go out and try and poke check it too, just to get it out of there and hopefully wake the team up in front of me. Like, I feel like I'm hysterical right now, and because I don't have answers, and I wish I had answers.
I think the entire Sharks fandom at this point is in agreement. There is just, first off, I think that there's just way too much talent to be sucking this hard. You know what I mean? Like, they individually, these pieces that the Sharks have should be performing at a an extremely high level, and we're not seeing that at all. If anything, we're seeing complete mediocrity throughout the lineup.
Yeah, and then guys that are, Timo Meyer gets himself stapled to the bench. And don't get me wrong, like, Timo Meyer, I'm a huge Timo Meyer guy, but Timo Meyer hasn't had the season that you want from him, but he's stapled to the bench. But, the defense, the multi-million, trillion, zillion-dollar defense can cough up the puck and give away the game, and nothing for them.
Right, and I agree with that. I mean, you're seeing when, look, I think it was in that second period when Erik Karlsson got that goal off of a face-off play. I think we all looked and, like, thought, okay, maybe this is the start of something good. Maybe, he's getting a little bit of his mojo back. He's getting a little bit of picking his spot and really launching that puck. And we thought, okay, yeah, okay, this is what we signed up for on the back end. And then going into, and that came at 6:16 in the second period. Marleau and Thornton are getting the assists on that one, so go old guys. The second goal coming from Joe Thornton, his first on the season, which, Joe Thornton is not a goal scorer at all, but boy, you pick a hell of a time to get your first goal, why don't you? This should have come at least 20 games earlier.
Yeah.
But besides the point, Šimek and Marleau getting the assists there, and you're thinking, okay, we're getting some production from the back end. Šimek driving up the center lane, causing some havoc in front of the goaltender. You're liking that. And the Sharks had some good mojo going into that second period. But boy, going into that third period, it's like they just forgot to play defense. And quite honestly, Martin Frk with two, completely unmarked plays. I mean, he was
That guy. That guy.
Yeah, Frk that guy, exactly. But he's completely unmarked, left right alone in the slot. He's going to his left and shooting towards his right on the short side. Dell has no chance on either of those, and Dell, quite honestly, kept them in that first period through that horrendous start that the Sharks had. And you're thinking, okay, Sharks maybe are getting some life here. They're getting the old guys to kind of come in and provide a little bit of interjection of some energy, and you're thinking, okay, we could work with this.
Yep.
and then completely, it's just you might as well not have even stepped out onto the ice.
Yeah,
It complete breakdown, complete breakdown.
yeah, and I don't know, like, and I don't know what the answer is, and it's hard because like it's easy right now. The easy thing to do is just kind of to just resort to just hysterics and just really shitty takes on things, and I'm trying not to do that, but like, what do you do? I mean, like every time I think this team can't hit another low,
It
they
does.
hit another low.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like, is this rock bottom for the team? I don't know.
I think rock bottom was sometime in October, to be quite honest with you, and this is just a continuation of the mediocrity. You know what?
I don't know because like because I think October, they did have their November and they leveled things out. So I don't think like October was rock bottom, but like, man, like this like October was bad. Don't get me wrong, but this chasm that they've fallen into, look how they played a bunch of division teams, must win games in my opinion. To if you want to have any faith, and I mean those games are all gone now. And what do they have to show for it? A couple of points maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, Andy in San Jose saying, "Let's be real. The season's over." At the beginning of play tonight, I thought tonight was definitely going to be the litmus test as to what the Sharks were going to do in the second half, and they basically showed me that they are who we thought they are, meaning they're not good. This is not a good hockey
No, this
team.
is not good, and this is a team that is built to be good, right? Like this isn't a team that's set up to fail this badly.
No, no, and
Like
and
like
and this isn't. And I might be a Doug Wilson apologist from time to time, but this isn't on him. This isn't on him. This makeup of the team should be a lot better than they are.
is it though? I mean, I disagree with that. I think this is absolutely on him. You got a couple of good games from Martin Jones in the playoffs last year, and you thought, yeah, we can come back with the same goaltending this year, even though the majority of last season was awful. You, if the Sharks, I mean, I contradicted this. I'm going to contradict this already, but like, if the Sharks, the wheels have really fallen off for them to get this low, right? Like, I mean, obviously, they don't look, this isn't a happy team. These guys don't look like they're having fun. But if they get just average goaltending in October, November, maybe, maybe the lows aren't as bad as they are right now. You have obvious depth issues
Yeah.
that you can't solve, that you haven't been able to solve. There's been a litany of guys that have come up and played in the bottom six. Nothing seems to stick. I mean, at some point, yeah, you can. Doug Wilson obviously isn't on the bench and he's not on there making the plays, but this is his team, and his team is set up to not be this bad. And he's already blown the gun and he's already used the one bullet he had to fire his coach, which changed nothing. Even though I'm happy Peter DeBoer's gone, but still, it didn't change. It didn't have the impact that people were hoping it would have. This is Doug Wilson's team. He has to own this. You can't just ride the coattails of, well, I made this trade back in 2003 forever.
Right. Right.
Like at some point, this is a team where under his management, the future's been mortgaged. Big guys have come in, guys that have gotten long contracts without having the success to go with it. Like you look at the mess Chicago's in, yeah, they're in a mess, but at least they've got 3 Stanley Cups to hang their hat on. What do the Sharks have? A Stanley Cup appearance they lost in 6 games, a couple of conference finals, not good enough. This
Right.
is absolutely on Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson has failed to manage this team in the new era of the cap, where he's given guys deals that they, based on, well, we have to pay them now and we're going to have to pay them later. But I'm sorry. We weren't supposed to have this problem with Brent Burns already. Like this is Brent Burns at 34. We signed him. He's signed for another 5 years at $8 million. There's no quick way out of this mess. That's absolutely on Doug Wilson.
Right. What I guess what I'm trying to say is not necessarily for the lack of introduction of personnel, the lack of going and acquiring high end talent. I, I still am wanting to see more from Evander Kane, who has completely disappeared. I want to see more from Timo Meyer, who has completely disappeared. Kevin LeBanc. I mean, those are three players that were had an enormous responsibility placed upon them. You thought, okay, they're not going to have career years like they did last year,
Sure.
but they're going to be productive. They're going to be productive players. They're going to be players that will drive play and that can complement, a very high potent back end. Right now, they're missing an action. That's an entire line just missing an action.
But who's been really, I mean, I mean, that's the problem, right? There's nobody, there's really nobody that you can hang your hat on so far this season and be like, well, at least that's working out.
I mean, you could say Barclay Goodrow. I'd like to see some more points out of
Oh,
him.
great. But Barclay Goodrow, I mean, if you're expecting Barclay Goodrow to be your top line guy, like that's kind of
Yeah.
speaks to the problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. It goes to show you that a depth player is the player that has been the most consistent this year. That says something, and I think it says something about. Quite honestly, I think it's time to start talking about leadership. I don't think Logan Couture's style of self reflection and self not deprecation, but almost this inward look that he channels his own inner Dan Boyle, so to speak. I don't think that that's what this team needs.
I don't think, I don't know though. And again, I'm not trying to be antagonistic with you, Landy, I promise.
No.
Like,
It's a good discussion to have. I think
yeah,
with
I
how
don't know.
bad it is.
I don't feel like, like, I don't know. I think that's one of like maybe the more red herrings for this team this year. Cause it's an easy thing. Cause like, oh, this changed, the captaincy changed. So this is clearly like how many times, they talked about on the broadcast tonight when Rob Blake took over the C. Well, who was still the main guy in the locker room? Joe Thornton.
Right.
Like, and I'm not trying to say this is Joe Thornton's fault, but I'm just saying I think like the eagerness to put a lot of this on Logan Couture probably isn't fair because he's the guy with the C, but he's probably still not the guy in the room.
Right. Finishing off in that third period, even though I don't really want to, Martin Frk with his first, like I said, completely unmarked, going towards his left in the slot, basically left alone, goes against the grain, gets Aaron Dell on the short side. Aaron Dell, by the way, having a great night. He posted a .921 save percentage. There's not really much more you could ask out of him, but Prohorkin and Carter getting the assists there. And then in almost a deja vu play with the goaltender just pulled, Jack Campbell on the bench, Martin Frk with his second of the night. Mind you, this was his first appearance as a Los Angeles King. Luckily it wasn't a first NHL goal, but it certainly had feelings of that, didn't it? And Carter and Prohorkin hooking up again on the goal from Martin Frk, and then going into that overtime, which we kind of already broke down just a little bit, but Hertl kind of loses the puck, kind of stays behind the blue line and behind his goaltender, and the puck squirts out into the center. You basically have a 2-on-0 situation.
Sure.
Aaron Dell goes for the poke check, which I think and quite honestly, there is no wrong move as a goaltender there. If you try and post up or try and make yourself bigger, you're still got a 2-on-0 situation. It's high risk, high reward.
3-on-3. Like it's 3-on-3. The best thing you can do is try and get the puck, like try and disrupt the possession for the Kings and hope the play goes the other way. I don't like, man, like Hertl just bailed on that defensive play, and I don't know what like Aaron Dell's supposed to do in that situation.
Right.
And I know like, you want to see him, like I know a lot of people, you'd be like, well, you'd get on Jones for that, but you wouldn't get on Dell. And in that play, I'd probably give Jones a pass too. Like, I don't know what the goalie's supposed to do in that situation when Hertl completely bails on the defensive side, like the defensive play. You give the entire front of the net to the Kings. The Sharks are all below the line. Like, like
No,
that's the thing. Like
it's
it's
Keystone Cops.
flabbergasting.
It's Keystone Cops.
Yeah,
It's Keystone Cops, Three Stooges, whatever slapstick comedy routine you want to throw out there. It's basically what we're seeing on ice right now,
yeah.
and you know I don't know. You've got
Like AJ, like does LA even win this game if Carlson doesn't get stripped out of? Well, no, obviously. Look at like again the one problem that I've always said with the Carlson Vlasic signing is it's too much stick checking, not enough body checking, and that is a perfect example of it. If Erik Karlsson takes the man with the body, maybe that play doesn't happen. But at the same time, like we can pick them apart for that specific play. But the Sharks had 4 shots on goal the entire period. Like you play that long in your end, it's only a matter of time till someone screws up, whether it's your highest paid defenseman or your lowest paid defenseman. It doesn't matter. If you play that much in your own end in the third period trying to hold a 1-goal lead, bad shit is going to happen. It doesn't matter who's on the ice.
You're exactly right. And just to illustrate the points that we have been saying, let's break down the shots on goal period by period. Why don't we? It doesn't paint any prettier of a picture, folks. If not, if anything, it's worse. The total shots on goal tonight, 38-24 in favor of the Los Angeles Kings in the first period. The Kings with 10 shots on goal, San Jose with 8. And I think that was pretty generous because there were a few that were coming off of indirects, and so to speak. In the second, it was all even at 11 apiece. But just to illustrate how frustrating that third period was, 15 shots to 4 shots. How
Yeah, like
how does that happen? That's a joke. It's embarrassing. The forwards, the decor, everyone should be embarrassed.
oh, it's a joke. I mean, and they went, you know, and, and in the intermission, they were like, "Oh, if the Sharks blow this game, they're right back in the playoffs." How can you honestly even think that this team? Like, I understand, I get it. I know we've speed bagged the CSN crew a lot, but oh my God, like how can you watch this game and think that this team is fortunate that there's no relegation? I wish my fandom would get relegated to a different league right now.
Oh boy, he wants to pull some English Premier League relegation action. Yeah, I mean, and it seems like this team is just completely dysfunctional across the board. I liked Mario Ferraro's game tonight. He was a bright spot. Shimmick was a bright spot. Um, I've continued to like what I've seen out of Stefan Nason. I've liked Joel Kelman.
Yeah, Shelman, yeah.
Shellman, and I think that the depth kind of players have been okay, but again, I just go back to Evander Kane. I go back to Tomas Hertl, Kevin LeBanc, Timo Meyer. I mean, again, 4 players.
But then there's the thing, right? Like, and like at the end of the game, like I understand, like you're desperate and you want to reward some of these, like grinders for some stuff, but what the hell is Tomas Hertl going to do on a line with Nason and Shellman? Like, don't get me wrong, like I understand that they played, that they've played some positive minutes, but at the same time, like, what the hell's Tomas Hertl supposed to do with either of those guys? It's just painful.
No, it is, and it's such a precipitous fall off in their games, um, and so it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you insofar as what the team should be doing. I don't know insofar as realistically what can happen now with the rest of the time that they have available to them. But I think that it behooves DW to start exploring some trades of some of the bigger players that they have. I think it's time to recoup for draft picks because this team has proved, teams can prove to you whether or not they buy a trade, to improve themselves going onto the stretch run. Teams can show you if they deserve to have players retracted out of the lineup because of how crappy that they have played, and I think that it is time. I think there are some expiring deals that they can get rid of, especially you look at Dylan, and he is a good piece to recoup something.
He might get. I don't think he's gonna get as much as people think he's gonna get though. Like he's still a left shot D,
Right.
right? Like that's the frustrating. Like if Brendan Dillon was a right shot D, you could probably trade him for a pretty good piece. I'm not sure you get a whole lot for Brendan Dillon, especially dealing like from a point of weakness like the Sharks are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to get an extra third or fourth rounder.
Right, but what's that gonna do? I mean,
Well, it's better. You know what? I
yeah,
mean,
I guess it's
honestly, it's
better
better
than
than nothing, right? I mean, and right now, I can tell you, the people who we laughed at in this position a year ago over in Ottawa, they are going to laugh straight to the bank with that first rounder, which is probably
Oh
going to
yeah.
be a lottery pick.
Oh, it's yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, it's going to be a lottery pick. It's, and depending on how the odds are, they're going to have a good chance of hell, they could end up picking 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the way that the Sharks are
And
playing,
you know what? And you can definitely, with the benefit of hindsight, you take that into consideration because, the one thing that we all said, a lot of us said anyway, was, well, we really picked up Erik Karlsson for nothing. That doesn't, if they pull it like a top 5 pick, it's no longer for nothing. Like that trade doesn't look very good in hindsight anymore.
no. I mean, it's and if,
And
and God
I
forbid if they get number 1 overall, right? I mean,
and I
that's a
was a guy. Oh,
franchise.
absolutely.
That's a franchise alterer right there.
In this draft, it absolutely is because you got Lafreniere, who's probably number 1. Quentin Byfield and from Sudbury is probably number 2. Both really solid players. Byfield, I wonder if Byfield goes first because he's the center.
Right.
But I mean, these guys, yeah, there are some really, really good players that are going to be headlining this draft class. It's a pretty deep draft, for the first round anyway. But I mean, and I will be the first. I will say, I was one of those guys that was out here, when Erik Karlsson got traded here, and I was saying how little we gave up. Big deal, Dylan. What you lose Dylan DeMello or, the Cobra, big deal. But man, yeah, you add Quentin Byfield or an Alex Lafreniere into that mix, and that's a pretty big deal.
Right. Rob Lyman asking tomorrow, do we see Meyer get scratched? It wouldn't put. I think everything's
But
on
for
the table.
who, right? Like
Yeah.
for who? Like that's the problem. Your depth is so bad that, and I'm not advocating for a Timo Meyer benching for what it's worth here, but I'm just saying like your depth is so bad. What AHL guy are you going to put in to replace him? And then you're going to expect better results? Like maybe, but not really. I mean, that's the problem, right? The problem is you don't have guys that can pick up and take over the spot of a Timo Meyer, even as bad as Timo Meyer is playing right now.
Right. All
Like
right.
you don't have a legit guy.
Right. No, you don't have somebody that can come up and play those minutes.
None of these guys are afraid of their jobs being lost because there's no one to take them.
Right. So it was an overestimation on the prospects, and I think we all looked at the prospects and said that there was more to the group than meets the eye. But you know what? This season has definitely put it into perspective from my end. I mean, the Barracuda right now are not playing well.
Yeah, and I don't want to I know I just jumped on one of Kurz's tweets about the Barracuda. I haven't watched any Barracuda games this year, so I don't really want to speed bag them. But obviously, I mean, you can argue with, and if you can argue with anyone, it's the internet, you're allowed, over have guys gotten a fair shake or not. But I feel like the Sharks have given a lot of guys looks, and maybe a different coach might get something different out of them, but really no one's no one's afraid of losing their job on this team, whether it be a top 6 forward or a bottom 6 forward.
Well, Ian, I mean, and you we're talking about fair shakes here. They spent the entire preseason rotating people in and out and in and out, and arguably messed up any kind of gel time that they had to try and figure out what the hell they had in these kids. So I think it's fair to say that they got a shake at it. It might have been a 2 or 3 game audition, but still, I mean, again, nobody stepped up and grabbed it. The only person that did was Mario Ferraro, and it was in the position where we had the most plethora of depth.
You'd think, yeah. No, I mean, Mario Ferraro's been, thank God for that, because I mean, really, when we look at the season after the season's all said and done, like that's gonna be one of the things that we can probably hang our hat on. It won't be a whole lot because it's gonna be a depressing, like this. That's the problem with the Sharks. I mean, no one did anyone expect them to be this bad? No, I didn't expect them to be bad. I thought with how bad the Pacific was, this was gonna be a top three team in the Pacific, easily a top three team in the Pacific. I mean, I mean, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I knew that this was going to happen the whole time, but but this is where we are now, and there's nothing to look forward to. You've got a bunch of guys, and I've said this on many shows so far. You've got guys that are you can't trade them. I mean, you can, but you're going to get completely bent over a barrel because they have three teams that they can agree to go to, and huge ass cap hits. We're stuck with mediocre at best goaltending. I mean, maybe Aaron Dell sticks around next year and we keep him. I don't think like I'm not that so like Aaron Dell's been really good, but I don't know if I would go that far. I would look for another option over Aaron Dell in the offseason as well as he's played so far. But you're still stuck with Jones for what, another 5 years?
Oh my God, that Jones contract.
That Jones contract's an absolute poison pill. I mean, there's these contracts are not movable. You buy them out and you can't even buy, like, you could buy out Martin Jones, but that's going to cost you in the cap department where they don't have room. Any cap space you get, you're going to eat up with a Martin Jones buyout, and then you still have to find another goalie.
Right. Puck guy, we're speaking about goaltending, and I think in depth in general, you lose Pavs, Nyquist, and Donskoy, and AJ has beat this drum to death,
Sure.
but it's a second line on pretty much most NHL teams for EK65.
Okay, yeah, but Justin Braun sucks.
Oh, I just strictly Pavs, Nyquist, and Donskoy.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say because Justin Braun sucks. So let's not
Right.
worry about like the Sharks actually probably held Justin Braun longer than they should have. Joe Pavelski, look, maybe this is an unpopular opinion. It's the popular opinion. None of these deals have worked out. Like the deal that he signed with Dallas, none of them have worked out so far.
Right. I think that there was going to be some kind of regression, especially if Pavelski had stayed. I think we would
I
have
don't
seen.
think we're in a much better place.
Yeah, I mean I can, looking at the way that the team is right now, I think they probably would have been in a better place, only in insofar as maybe a mental standpoint, maybe being a little bit better, and the fact that we're even just going to like a mental win is just goes to show you how crappy the season has been.
Yeah,
But
I don't think Joe Pavelski makes much of a difference this year because he was like, what was his shooting percentage last year?
20s, right?
Right, like there was no way. And then by the end of that deal, so you sign him for 3 years, and this thing is way. I mean, you think things are bad this year? Think of what things would be like in 3 years with much, that old of player making that much money.
And I think though, Ian, I think we'll look back on the retrospective of this season, and I think we'll say that the Sharks did not spend enough time tailoring an offense to the strengths that they had after their assets departed. I think that this team, for the first 30 games, has been looking for that same tip pass and that same tip.
Sure, but that's coaching. I mean, that is a problem where you lose a tool, and you like, and they tried to get Dylan Gambrell to play that role, which really is, on his best day, maybe he's a poor man's Joe Pavelski on his best day, not on an average day. Like that's coaching though. Like, I mean, you're still looking for that same play 40 games into the season with Pavelski gone. Give me a break. Like that's just like
Right, and
an adjustment should have been made.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of what we're saying is the perfect storm here. Is it not only that it's a departure of talent, but it's a non-course correction to the issues that this team had last year. I mean,
Yeah.
again, you talk about the goaltending.
Mhm.
It looks like Aaron Dell right now has kind of shored things up for the most part in the last 4 or 5 games. But prior to that, you continually trotted out a Martin Jones who's he's just completely forgot how to play goaltender. You
Well,
know,
but he's your almost $6 million guy, though. Like, you people are talking about 11.5 for Erik Karlsson. Martin Jones is in the top half of paid goaltenders in the league, and he's been dead last in save percentage the last 2 years
right? And
of
so
starting goalies. Like,
personnel issue one, two, tactical misread on what the team has. So I think that, and then the change in leadership I think has more to do than I think we want to give credence to. I really think that that has something to do with it, whether or not it's adjusting to a new style of somebody speaking, or whether or not it's just not the right buttons being pushed. But it was a perfect storm, and I
yeah.
think that I let's just say if we would go into this season all over again, I don't know that it would be this bad, but I think it's just things have compounded upon each other
For
so
sure.
much that this is what the shit sandwich that we've been served.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think you do things differently, a little bit differently. Like, maybe you don't keep Carlson and you keep a couple of those other guys instead. I don't know if this team's much better because the goaltending's been that bad.
Right. Right. I mean, I don't know. And AJ saying if Jones and Dell are so bad, how were they part of getting to the Western Conference last season?
Well, look at, okay, Matt Murray has 2 Stanley Cup rings, and what has he done lately?
Yeah, I mean, and
What
goaltending.
happened to Antti Niemi? Like,
Right.
a goalie can get hot for a period for they get hot. Look at Martin Jones. You go back and you look at that Vegas series. The second half of that Vegas series, Martin Jones stood on his head. Martin Jones, game 6, Martin Jones made like almost 60 fucking saves.
Right.
Like, goalies can go on a run. We've seen mediocre goalies, have outstanding years and then completely fall off the face of the planet. Um,
Hamburglar, right? I mean,
like,
he's not even in the
it's
league.
happened. I mean, but I look at, if you want to just blame the defense, that's fine. But again, I can show you a team in Winnipeg that has a much shittier defense than we do, and their goalie's posting a 937. So clearly, a good goalie can be the difference on a team with shitty defense.
Yeah, and I think Winnipeg is definitely a good um a good parallel to the Sharks insofar as how a team can rise up out of depth adversity
Sure.
versus wilt towards it, right? Winnipeg, we all wrote Winnipeg off. I mean, I think everybody, media pundits to everybody here at Teal Town, I mean, with the way that their injuries had stacked up, the way that the bloodletting on that blue line continually just the bleeding never stopped,
Yeah.
and they're still a stellar defensive team, still, and the Sharks have 5x the talent on the blue line, and are completely lifeless.
It's
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not mad at AJ. I'm sorry if I'm just I'm so frustrated with this team, and obviously I get this wonderful platform where I can just yell into the wind. Um, like, I don't know. I just, like, I wish, I'm frustrated because I wish I had answers. Like, I wish I
Right.
could tell you this is what the Sharks can do and everything's gonna be okay, and I could kiss you all on the forehead and tuck you in at night and tell you that everything's gonna be fine tomorrow in Sharks land. But I don't I can't. And
Right.
it's so frustrating.
Right. And I think we also said, look, I think a team can absorb a certain amount of mistakes on the back end from a Burns, but can they absorb two of the same defensemen? I mean, of similar high risk, high reward, and not fall off a cliff from defensive standpoint as far as high danger chances. And I think the resounding answer is no. I don't think even if you clone Mark-Edward Vlasic at his peak, 27-year-old or 26-year-old Mark-Edward
Sure.
Vlasic, and you gave the blue line three more of those, and you still put Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns on the same blue line, I don't think that they would cover up those mistakes. I don't think that you can have two alpha right-handers that are high risk, high reward kind of players. I don't think it works.
Just to answer, Winnipeg's up in the higher end of the high danger chances against, for what it's worth. I don't know exactly where they rank. I know they are definitely in the top half of the league for high danger chances allowed.
Right. Rob Iman asking, do we think Bugner is going to break out the whip tomorrow? I mean, he's got to do something. Got to do something. But what is that going to change? I mean, not much.
I don't know. Like, this team is just, and this goes back to what I said. Like, where I don't have the answers. Like, I feel like this team is just so fundamentally broken. You could put Scotty Bowman behind that bench, and nothing's going to change.
Right. I mean, yeah, Al Arbor, Scotty Bowman. I mean, whatever. Nothing's going to fix that. A012345_2. Burns to forward is actually looking like a valid solution now. HA chiming in. Bingo. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what the hell do you have to lose, right? I think this is a crap season. So, I think hell, why not? At this point, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks at this point, because
yeah,
at Phantom 0441, I think the Sharks need to make a trade to shake the team up. But who's going to trade with them?
What are you going to trade that's going to make an impact?
Right. I mean, Carlson's got a no move. Burns got a modified no trade. Vlasic's no move. Couture's modified no trade.
Your best trade chip is Brandon Dillon, and it's not that great of a trade chip.
Right.
Like, just because that's your best chip doesn't mean it's going to get you the best trade or the best results. Like, I don't know how a third round pick is going to help the Sharks in the lineup if he was gone tomorrow. Like, yeah, that's the problem, right? Like, I don't, and maybe I'm just being, maybe I'm naive, not thinking outside the box enough, but again, all of these, anyone that has value, your guys that are going to have maybe the most value are Dillon and maybe Kevin LeBanc, because he's on a song of a deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and even combined, I don't think they bring you back anything that's going to make an impact.
Right.
Like, I know everyone's pissed off at Timo Meier right now, but trading Timo Meier at this point in his career would be an absolute mistake.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna figure it out at some point. I firmly believe that.
You put him with a superstar center, and you're looking at like 35 plus goal scorer.
Are you trading Tomas Hertl? I sure as hell hope not. I mean, if you're trading Tomas Hertl, you better strip this thing down to the bolts.
Yeah, everything's for sale at that point, right? Because
he's
a young player. He's part of the solution, and if you're waving that flag of the, hey, I'm trading Tomas Hertl, that means nothing is untouchable.
If you're trading Tomas Hertl, you better strip this thing down to the bolts.
Right.
And you better get as much back as possible. Logan Couture, again, I don't think Logan Couture is the problem. I don't know what's the one, like, maybe you trade one guy and you make a huge impact. Logan Couture, well, again, you got to pick 3 teams that he'll go to and then hope they don't bend you over the barrel for them. But I'd almost put Couture in the same category as I put Hertl. If you're trading Couture, you better strip it down to the bolts.
Right, and then I think the other thing too that has kind of gone unsaid is the DW had made a living of bending teams over backwards when they were in this position, right? And I don't think general managers have that short of an attention span or that short of a memory. They're going to exact some level of retribution here if DW is going to look for a trade partner. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody's going to be giving him a life preserver. I think you look at the case in point with Stefan Nason. It would not surprise me if he put out the feelers for goaltending help months ago and couldn't find anything of value to come back, and getting somebody off the waiver wire, I think, shows you just the kind of level of desperation that he's in, and just the lack of trade availability, the lack of trade partners, and quite frankly, probably the dog shit offers that he's getting for his players at this point. So again, I don't think that there's a magical solution. As far as getting out of any players, I don't think that there's going to be any kind of cavalry coming.
This is the problem, right? Because this is the thing, right? Because everyone wants to give us, they want me to see, they want us to come here and they want us to say something positive, something they can hang their hat on. And really, there's no answer. There's no trade that's going to fix this team. There's no trade coming, in my opinion. Like if they trade someone of any value that's not Brendan Dillon and I don't think they trade Kevin LeBanc either, but those are your two guys that you can possibly trade. If none of those guys, if it's not for one of those guys, I don't see what they're going to do. Like that's the problem, right? This is the mess that they're in. Like there is just nothing to hang your hat on. There's no trade that's going to fix this team. Everyone's talking about culture change, but the talk is cheap. I mean, I'm not in the locker room. You're not in the locker room.
Culture begats culture, right? I mean, if you win, then it continues on. It's basically a winning cures all, right? I think culture is just a byproduct of where you're at insofar as your level of play. There might be, having said that, there might be some animosity towards the contracts that were doled out. I think everybody kind of raised an eyebrow when you gave that contract to Evander Kane.
Evander Kane, yep. Yeah, and that's probably where it started. If there is discontent from contracts, that's probably where it started. There was a lot of rumors from reputable hockey people that Joe Pavelski was not a big fan of that deal.
Right. It's a player that comes in who hasn't been a Shark, who didn't grow up in the Sharks way, and basically took part of Joe Pavelski's re-signing money right there.
Yeah. Again, you don't keep Joe Pavelski for 3 more years at a high dollar amount. You just don't. Like I will say that's the right move. Some of the other names that went, I don't mean to circle back to this wagon, but if San Jose Sharks signed Jonas Donskoy for $4.1 million in the offseason, we would have came on here and we all would have lost our fucking minds.
Yeah, I think when you're playing with Nathan MacKinnon, though, I think it definitely inflates your stats. So I think anybody could get 20 goals, playing with Nathan MacKinnon. But I totally hear you, though.
We would have came on here and just like, yeah, it would have been hysterically funny to look back on now, but we would have lost our minds.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ian, I mean, I guess let's extract the only faint joy of pleasure that we'll get out of this silly little podcast with a timely reach around, right?
Have the goddamn common courtesy to give him a reach around.
Yeah, time to get that reach around out. And try and salvage whatever we can out of this night. Boston Bruins continue winning. Patrice Bergeron is just a beast. He's got number 16 and 17 goals on the season tonight. Brandon Carlo with the 3rd goal, and the Bruins go ahead and shut out the Sabres 3-0. Maple Leafs beat the Devils 5-4. Your goal scorers in that one are Zach Hyman, Mikhailov, Kapanen, Tavares, Nylander with the overtime winner, and for the Devils, Nico Hischier, Gusev, and Kyle Palmieri, and Jesper Bratt, for a 5-4 win, Maple Leafs over the Devils. The Rangers beat up on the Hurricanes 5-3. Walmart, Pesce, and Aho are your goal scorers for Carolina. Zibanejad, Kreider, Zibanejad, Strome for your winners on the Rangers. Caps beat the Blue Jackets 2-1. We got Lilia with the Columbus Blue Jackets goals, and then you got Hagelin and Oshie with the goals for the Capitals. The Wild beat the Avalanche 6-4, and the Wild, are certainly making it interesting, especially in that wild card race. But they beat up on the Avalanche 6-4 tonight. Penguins beat the Predators 5-2. Blues beat the Jets 5-4 in overtime. Blackhawks beat the Islanders 5-2. Flames beat up on their Alberta rivals 5-1 against the Oilers. The Ducks beat the Golden Knights 4-3. Of course, the Sharks losing did not help their cause to try and claw back. And, of course, the Sharks lose in the overtime, and we have the diatribe of all diatribes. So that is your reach around, and again, I think we've kind of come to this conclusion that this season, I think, is pretty much in the books. We're not even halfway through, but the Sharks would have to go on some kind of miracle
But continue
run.
watching.
Yeah, right, exactly. But continue watching. Place. Get your. Get continue to support the team insofar as going to the games and rooting for our boys and stuff. But boy, it right now in Sharks fandom, it is hard to draw highlights out of anything besides getting some nice some diamonds in the rough, and so far as Mario Ferraro and Shellman and Stefan Nason. But again, if you're saying that those are your diamonds in the rough and you're saying that those are the bright spots of your season, then boy, you're not doing great.
Like your thing that you should hang your hat on shouldn't be, well, we've got a great fourth line, guys.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that they were going, I think it was Kevin Kurz or maybe it was Pashelka. It was one of the beat writers was basically saying they'd have to go at like a 600 win percentage, like to even sniff wild card, right? I mean, basically you're looking at like 95 points right now, and what we're in the 30s points wise.
Yeah, and speaking, not only have we thrown in the towel, as much as NBCSN, wants to make sure that you keep watching and give you all the happy, horse crap about how, don't worry, they win this game, they're still in the playoff hunt, kids. They've decided the season's over too because they let their beat writer go in Shalana.
Yeah, I mean, we as a team here at Teal Town have always had a special connection, especially with some of the beat writers, but Shalana in particular. And we hope that she lands on her feet. We know she will. She's a great writer.
She's fine. Yeah, she's fantastic.
And definitely has.
But like, how brutal is that? Like your television partner can't even supply with a beat writer. Like,
right.
God. Like I get it. I mean, look at I'm sure viewership's down because I'm sure that the viewership's probably reflecting the numbers in the tank. But man, that just that sucks. That really sucks. Like I understand like things aren't going very swimmingly right now, but to just kill your beat writer mid-season, like what a joke. What a joke. The Sharks television contract, that's a joke.
No,
it's disgusting.
No, it really was. I mean, it was.
And I'm not saying this because not just because this was Shalana. And I love Shalana. Don't get me wrong. But this could be anybody. This could be my least favorite person on the planet, and I'd still think it's a joke.
Right. Yeah. Especially mid-season, and I have had that feeling that the broadcast definitely took a different tone once the majority ownership changed, and once the
AB5 has nothing to do with Shalana getting fired. She was an employee of NBCSN. This, she's not a freelance. She was employed by them.
Right.
This is not an AB5 Fear the Fin issue. This is just no. It's not an AB5 issue. She was employed by the team. By the broadcast. It's not an AB5 issue. Stop.
Yeah.
The Fin, yes, unfortunate victims of the AB5. This is not that. And don't let them snow you into saying that. It's garbage.
But going back to just the way in which the presentation of the Sharks broadcast has continued, at this point, I feel it's almost we're almost being. It's not lied to, but it's this active let's keep this rah spirit going, guys. When it's look, the team is not doing well. They need to have a level of accountability. The media can be a part of that. Can be an outlet, and especially for the fans who need to see that they're being listened to and active. When you've got Curtis and you've got Brody actively going and love them to death, and I'm sure that this is not their preference. I'm sure
this is them doing their jobs. This is them putting food on their table. I get it. I don't like it, but I understand what they're doing, and I look at look at if this was me and if I had to come on here and give you a bunch of bullshit so that I could put food on my table and this was my job to do that, that's exactly what I would do. Why? Because putting food on my table, yeah, you know what? Sometimes I can suffer a little loss of integrity to keep my family fed.
Right. But doing that, I think, is a disservice to the fans. And I mean, coming from the person whoever's the production, guru over there at NBC SN, who's putting together the scripts and who's putting together the tones of the broadcast, I think it's a genuine disservice to the fans to continue to trot out these narratives.
Oh yeah.
And going back to the playoffs and what the Sharks have to do, basically the Sharks are at 35 points right now. They would need 60 points, so that's an additional 30 wins. And basically you've got 43 more games. So, I'm no math wizard there, Ian, but that tells you that they can only lose like 10 more games.
And playing the way they are, that's totally realistic, right? They're just gonna totally magically just turn around tomorrow, flip a switch, everything's gonna be better. They don't even know where their 12 forwards are gonna play from one game to the next, but they're totally gonna, turn around and win all the games.
Right. Yeah. Basically, run off at like a monster 10-game win streak, lose one, and then go on another monster 10-game win streak. It's just. We hate to be this. You hate to be this down on the Debs, but look, you just have to look at their last 10, 1-7-2. It's
look at the whole season. I mean, really,
pathetic.
You look at the whole season. Look at even in November, and I know when I'm beating a dead horse, and we should probably wrap up since I know we've been on for a while. Even when they were winning, there was still some very obvious flaws with the way this team was playing in November. There was very obvious telltale flaws that some people, they didn't want to see it because they didn't want the truth. And they were there then, they're there now.
Right. All right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's pretty much as simple as that, right? I mean, oh boy. Well, I mean, Sharks faithful, I mean, all we can do is just, love our colors and bleed our teal and, be there for the boys, but it's not looking good right now. And, I guess all we can do really is just keep the faith and keep the color alive, right? So, Ian, I mean, I know we've beat the dead horse and we've continued to do that. And I think for the most part, we've covered almost all the angles.
We've covered all our bases, I think, tonight. I think that
but yeah, your last thoughts on where the people can find you.
My last thoughts are do they have television in Germany?
Like,
look at, I've always been a big proponent, like, you always you want to have that perfect level of ownership where they're just that perfect amount of involved, because you don't want them overly involved, because when you have your ownership too overly involved, you draft Neil Yakupov over Ryan Suter. That's what happens when ownership's too involved.
Right.
So you don't want that, but don't you want something at this point? I don't know. Like,
as a former broadcaster of our beloved Los Tiburones, how can you take my praise when you can't understand the criticism? I don't know. AJ's gonna really
AJ, yeah, you butchered that. AJ will tell you.
Yeah, he'll ream me for that one. But basically, it's to the point of, if I can't exercise good criticisms on the team, how can you take my praise
at face value? Yeah,
at face value. Yeah, exactly. So I think that those are my final thoughts. And so far as where you can find me, you can use my first name. That's Eric, spelled with a K. Landi, Landi. I am Italian, not French. So, use the I, not the Y. And, and so everybody here from Teal Town, USA, we really appreciate you guys coming on and
absolutely
checking us out on the Periscopes. We're really trying hard to get this sorted out with YouTube, and we're trying to figure it out, trying to get a hold of anybody who will listen to us. But we're trying to get these live streams all back together and kind of going from there. Of course, if you guys want to continue to keep up the conversation and have conversations with us, check us out on the Discord. It's a new kind of interaction method that we're using, but it's something cool that that AJ and crew have put together. I think I might hop in there for 20, 30 minutes and kind of just, shoot the shit with everybody. So, yeah, if you haven't checked us out already, please go ahead and find us on all the social medias. And as always, keep it teal. Or keep it real. Keep it teal. And keep it real
Butchering
teal.
everything
You know what? It's just not our day. It's just
It's
not our day. It's not our day, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.